Hello and welcome. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been told that your pain wasn't real? That what you were feeling was all in your head? If so, you're not alone. Today's story is about one woman's quiet strength. Her long, exhausting fight to be heard, to be believed, and to heal. This is more than a health journey. It's about reclaiming your voice when the world tries to silence it. It's about finding light in the darkest corners of doubt. Today, I invite you to listen with your heart, because this is From Psychosomatic to Empowered, Overcoming Medical Gaslighting. Let's begin. The fluorescent lights of the doctor's office hummed, a sterile symphony that always seemed to amplify my anxiety. Today was appointment number, I lost count. Somewhere past a dozen, easily. Each visit, a fresh wave of hope followed by the crushing disappointment of another dead end. Dr. Albright, a man whose smile never quite reached his eyes, shuffled through my file. The file, I imagined, chronicling years of unexplained symptoms, frustrating lab results, and the slow erosion of my life as I knew it. So, Miss Eleanor Vance, he began, his voice devoid of any discernible warmth, the latest blood work is inconclusive as usual. All your basic markers are within normal ranges. Have you considered that this might all be psychosomatic? Psychosomatic. The word hung in the air like a toxic cloud. It was the doctor's shorthand for, it's all in your head. It was the phrase that invalidated years of suffering, the dismissive wave that erased the mountains of pain, fatigue, and cognitive fog that defined my existence. I clenched my fists, the familiar surge of anger battling the equally familiar wave of despair. Dr. Albright, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. I understand that my symptoms don't fit neatly into a diagnostic box, but I assure you, the pain is real. The fatigue is debilitating. I'm not making this up. He sighed, a sound that suggested I was being deliberately difficult. Miss Vance, I've run all the standard tests. I'm a medical doctor. I can only work with what I can see. If there's nothing physically wrong, then perhaps you should explore other avenues. Therapy, maybe? Therapy. Another suggestion that implied I was the problem, not my body. I had tried therapy for years. It helped me cope with the frustration, the isolation, the gaslighting from the medical community. But it didn't alleviate the physical symptoms. It didn't cure the crushing fatigue that made it impossible to hold down a job, the throbbing headaches that blurred my vision, the debilitating joint pain that made even walking a Herculean effort. I left Dr. Albright's office feeling defeated, the weight of my invisible illness pressing down on me like a physical burden. No one applauded. No one saw the battle I fought every single day, the sheer willpower it took to simply get out of bed and face the world. But I knew I was brave. I had to be. The beginning of my health saga wasn't a dramatic event, no sudden accident or earth-shattering diagnosis. It was a slow, insidious creep, a persistent fatigue that I initially dismissed as overwork, a vague ache in my joints that I attributed to aging, the occasional headache that I chalked up to stress. As time wore on, the symptoms became more frequent, more intense, and more baffling. The fatigue transformed into an all-encompassing exhaustion that made it difficult to function. The joint pain spread from my knees to my elbows, my wrists, my fingers, turning simple tasks into agonizing ordeals. The headaches morphed into migraines that left me bedridden for days, sensitive to light, sound, and even the slightest movement. I started the rounds of doctors, each visit a bewildering journey through the labyrinthine world of medical specialties. My primary care physician, initially sympathetic, grew increasingly dismissive as test after test came back negative. It's probably just stress, he'd say, patting my hand with a reassuring smile that felt anything but. Try to relax, get more sleep, and maybe take a vacation. Easy for him to say, I thought, as I struggled to drag myself out of bed each morning. Next came the rheumatologist, who poked and prodded my joints, ordered a battery of blood tests, and ultimately declared that I didn't meet the criteria for rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. Your inflammation markers are slightly elevated, she conceded, but not enough to warrant a diagnosis. Perhaps it's just osteoarthritis. Try taking some ibuprofen. The neurologist was equally unhelpful. An MRI of my brain revealed no abnormalities, and his conclusion was that I was suffering from tension headaches. He prescribed a muscle relaxant and suggested I try yoga. I tried the muscle relaxant, but it only made me feel groggy and didn't touch the pain. I attempted yoga, but the simplest poses sent shooting pains through my joints. The gastroenterologist, the endocrinologist, the cardiologist, each specialist ran their tests, offered their theories, and ultimately shrugged their shoulders in defeat. I became a medical mystery, a puzzle that no one seemed able to solve. The medical bills piled up, my savings dwindled, and my hope began to fade. I felt like I was trapped in a Kafkaesque nightmare, endlessly navigating a system that seemed designed to frustrate and demoralize. I was dismissed, ignored, and often treated as if I was making it all up. The gaslighting was relentless, chipping away at my sanity, making me question my own perceptions. Maybe it was all in my head. Maybe I was just a hypochondriac. Maybe I was just weak. But deep down, I knew the truth. I knew that something was profoundly wrong. I could feel it in my bones, in my muscles, in every cell of my body. I refused to accept that this was my new normal. I refused to surrender to the illness that was slowly stealing my life. So, I embarked on my own research. I spent hours poring over medical journals, online forums, and alternative health websites. I devoured books on nutrition, autoimmune diseases, and chronic fatigue syndrome. I became my own detective, determined to uncover the secrets of my own body. I discovered the world of functional medicine, a holistic approach that focuses on identifying and addressing the root causes of illness rather than simply treating the symptoms. I learned about the importance of gut health, the role of inflammation, and the impact of environmental toxins on the body. I began to suspect that I might be suffering from an autoimmune disease, even though the standard tests had come back negative. I found a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Ramirez, who actually listened to me. She spent 2 hours taking my medical history, asking detailed questions about my diet, my lifestyle, and my environmental exposures. She ordered a comprehensive set of tests, including specialized blood work, stool analysis, and genetic testing. The results were revealing. I had leaky gut syndrome, a condition in which the lining of the small intestine becomes permeable, allowing toxins and undigested food particles to enter the bloodstream, triggering inflammation and immune responses. I also had elevated levels of antibodies to certain food proteins, indicating food sensitivities. And, perhaps most significantly, I had a genetic predisposition to autoimmune diseases. Dr. Ramirez explained that my symptoms were likely the result of a complex interplay of factors, including leaky gut, food sensitivities, genetic susceptibility, and environmental triggers. She proposed a comprehensive treatment plan that included dietary changes, nutritional supplements, stress reduction techniques, and detoxification protocols. The dietary changes were drastic. I had to eliminate gluten, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, and processed foods from my diet. It was a daunting task, but I was determined to stick to it. I learned to cook new recipes, experiment with alternative ingredients, and read food labels with a hawk-like eye. The nutritional supplements were equally extensive. I took probiotics to restore my gut microbiome, digestive enzymes to aid in digestion, anti-inflammatory herbs to reduce inflammation, and antioxidants to protect my cells from damage. I also took supplements to support my adrenal glands, my thyroid, and my immune system. Stress reduction was a crucial component of the treatment plan. I started practicing mindfulness meditation, taking long walks in nature, and spending time with loved ones. I also learned to say no to commitments that drained my energy and to prioritize self-care. Detoxification was an ongoing process. I drank plenty of water, exercised regularly, and used a sauna to sweat out toxins. I also avoided exposure to environmental toxins, such as pesticides, herbicides, and chemicals in household products. The first few months were challenging. I experienced withdrawal symptoms from the dietary changes, and I felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of supplements I had to take. But slowly, gradually, I started to feel better. My fatigue began to lift, my joint pain subsided, and my cognitive fog cleared. It wasn't a miracle cure. I still had bad days, days when I felt like I was back at square one. But overall, my health improved dramatically. I had more energy, less pain, and a clearer mind. I was able to work part-time, socialize with friends, and enjoy life again. The journey was far from over. I knew that I would have to continue to manage my condition for the rest of my life. But I was no longer a victim. I was an active participant in my own healing. I had learned to listen to my body, to trust my intuition, and to advocate for my own health. This newfound agency extended to my interactions with the medical community. Armed with knowledge and experience, I became a more assertive patient. I questioned doctors' diagnoses, challenged their recommendations, and demanded to be treated with respect. I refused to be dismissed or ignored. I became my own advocate, my own champion. One of the biggest challenges I faced was navigating the skepticism and disbelief of those around me. Many of my friends and family members didn't understand my illness. They couldn't see the pain, the fatigue, or the cognitive fog. They assumed that I was exaggerating, being dramatic, or simply seeking attention. "But you look so good," they'd say, as if my outward appearance was an accurate reflection of my internal state. "You should be grateful for what you have." Their comments stung, but I tried to be understanding. I realized that it was difficult for people to comprehend something they couldn't see or experience. I made an effort to educate them about my illness, to explain the science behind it, and to share my experiences in a way that was both informative and relatable. Some people were receptive, others remained skeptical. But I learned to focus on the people who supported me, who believed in me, and who offered genuine empathy. I built a strong support network of friends, family members, and online communities who understood what I was going through. One of the most rewarding aspects of my journey was the opportunity to connect with other people who were suffering from similar conditions. I joined online forums, attended support groups, and volunteered for organizations that advocated for patients with chronic illnesses. I discovered that I was not alone. Millions of people around the world were struggling with invisible illnesses, fighting the same battles, facing the same challenges. We shared our stories, our experiences, and our strategies for coping. We offered each other support, encouragement, and hope. These connections were invaluable. They reminded me that I was not crazy, that my symptoms were real, and that I was not alone in my struggle. They gave me the strength to keep fighting, to keep advocating, and to keep believing in the possibility of healing. Over time, I became an advocate for myself and for others. I started writing about my experiences on a blog, sharing my insights, my tips, and my strategies for living with a chronic illness. I spoke at conferences, gave interviews, and participated in research studies. I wanted to raise awareness about invisible illnesses, to educate the public about the challenges faced by patients, and to advocate for better medical care, more research funding, and greater understanding. My journey has been long and arduous. It has been filled with pain, frustration, and disappointment. But it has also been filled with resilience, determination, and hope. I have learned so much about myself, about my body, and about the power of the human spirit. I am no longer the same person I was before I got sick. I am stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I have learned to appreciate the simple things in life, to cherish my relationships, and to live each day to the fullest. And, on that particular day, leaving Dr. Albright's office, even though no one applauded, I knew I was brave. Because I was choosing to keep fighting, keep searching, keep believing in myself, even when the world seemed determined to tell me otherwise. That was a victory worth more than any applause. Thank you so much for listening. If this story resonated with you, know that you are not alone, your pain is valid. Your journey matters, and your voice deserves to be heard. If you're navigating an invisible illness, or if you've ever felt dismissed by those meant to help you, keep going. Trust yourself. Keep asking questions. Keep fighting for your health, your truth, and your peace. If this story gave you hope, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and stay connected. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You are braver than you know.